We're still going to have an account executive, sales executive in some form, whatever that takes. Where do you see the change in that role happening? Because that's not going to stay the same either, right?
Brutally honest, as a sales leader, I need fewer of them and I need them to handle more accounts and their quotas go up. I think growth architect is going to be a role that um, emerges that has purview across marketing, sales, customer success, like the entire revenue life cycle.
Just a quick one before we get into the episode, because I've got an offer that I'm sure all of you will be interested in. AEO is something that every B2B marketing team is trying to figure out right now, and most just don't know where to start. But at Blend, we're offering a full AEO analysis of your brand's AI visibility, and we'll walk you through exactly what we found and what to do about it. From full prompt analysis against your competitors to a citation analysis, where we'll look at different content types and how you're being cited for those and mentioned in those, and what you can actually do to be mentioned and cited much more for your brand, and what content you should create going forwards, and how you comprise that strategy really. We will drop a note in the description of this episode in the show notes, and you can go over there, request your free AEO audit, and we will deliver that to you. Hi everyone, welcome back to Demand Decoded. Dan here with you today, joined by Josh, of course. And in this episode, we're going to be talking about the GTM org of the future and why it's going to be smaller, sharper, leaner, probably more expensive per head, but also different to what we're experiencing today. And there's been a lot of conversations about businesses and layoffs and the future of structures inside of businesses and what happens to people. And Josh, I know you've got some really interesting takes on where you see the future of like the GTM organization going. I've got some interesting takes as well. And yeah, we're going to dive in today on where we see this going and like what we truly believe is the future for this GTM setup and org structure.
Yeah. This is, this is a incredibly important topic. We talk a lot about tech and process and whatnot. And we'll talk about some of that today too. But the getting the people right is always the most important thing. Like
Yeah.
always the most important thing. And so, I this is one I've been really looking forward to. And we'll talk about some new roles, 3 specifically new roles that we think are coming into and are emerging into the modern go to market. And then we'll talk about what changes within each of the sort of current traditional roles that have been in our organizations for the last 20 years or so.
Yeah. Before we get into the podcast today, here's a quick word from our sponsors, HubSpot. Most businesses think they know their customers. They have the data, the records, the history, but it's scattered across 3 teams and 4 systems, which means nobody can actually use it. HubSpot connects it all. Every interaction, every support ticket, every conversation into one platform every team can work from. So when sales talk to a customer, marketing already know the full story. And when you know more, you grow more. Check out HubSpot.com, the agentic customer platform for growing businesses. There's always new roles and new structures that happen, right, in every era of B2B go-to-market, I suppose. You've got like the CRM era, teaching companies to manage pipeline and customer relationships effectively. You've got the
Yeah.
MarTech era that taught them how to actually generate pipeline and like see it all in one place. You've got the SaaS playbook on top of that, how to scale it. And now we're in this new era.
Yep. Yeah, I think you're right. I mean, when you said MarTech, the first thing I thought of was mass app proliferation. Like it was just,
Yeah.
there's so many, and you all of a sudden enterprises would have stacks of 30 different apps,
Yeah.
and that's a lot of that still exists today. But I think there's a couple of things that are happening. Right, fundamentally we're moving very, very rapidly from an effort-based model in go-to-market,
Mm.
where, historically to be able to scale go-to-market, to create more leads, to do more content, to manage more campaigns, you were adding more people
Yeah.
to much more of a system-based model where you have agents and orchestrated data and governed AI that are running continuously, and then you have people who are coming in and out of that to deliver outcomes or drive outcomes. And so yeah, I mean, it really does require a reset, not just a building onto, but a really a reset in how we think about the overall architecture of what our go-to-market looks like. It's not a faster version of what came before. I think we've used the term operating model before. I think it's a different operating
Mm.
model, a different operating system for go-to-market.
Yeah, I think there's three things that are really causing this pull right now for businesses to consider. One is what's actually happening inside of organizations when it comes to the the impact and actually the amazing progress that like agents and AI and the production of that and the quality. Well, we were just chatting before we hopped on,
Yep.
right? I've been using Veed some more to try out their video creation software, and I was like, I haven't tried this in a while, and it just gets better and better every time. So
Yeah.
you know,
Quickly.
yeah,
Yeah.
you've got the inside of the organization, but we've also got to consider what's happening outside of the organization, the impact that buyer behavior and buyer preferences and
Mhm.
the way that they're buying, researching, the way that they actually want to talk to vendors and like discover information about them is totally changing. And that just calls for GTM orgs to shift with the times.
Right. No, I agree. I think in one of our last podcasts, you said 89%, if I remember right, of B2B buyers
Yeah.
now use generative AI as a primary source for their
Mm.
research and for how and in that research, something like 60% of those searches end without a click, right? They don't actually come to the site. They get what they need serviced right in the browser or in the LLM window or whatever. And so um, that fundamentally changes our how we think about engaging end users and what becomes critical if we want to scale the outcomes of our business. But the other thing that I think is true, if we, that's more primary new logo
Yeah.
focus, right? That's important. But I think what else is true is that fairly recently, the platforms, the enterprise grade or small and medium enterprise grade platforms have really matured, and HubSpot being among them,
Mm.
um, where historically, if you said CRM, it was little more than a a sales pipeline,
Yeah.
effectively.
Yeah.
And now what we see with HubSpot in particular, but and there's other platforms too, but um, i- we can now see and capture the entire experience of a customer from first touch, intent signals, uh, opportunities, pipeline, close, close deals,
Mhm.
but now also implementation, customer success, engage how the customer is engaging with us, picking up on signals that would suggest that there's risk or opportunity to grow. So we have truly the entire customer life cycle inside a single place with real accuracy and automation that's enabled. And we'll maybe talk a little bit more about that in this
Yeah.
podcast. But I think that's also an enabler to this new org structure, if you
Mm.
will, or evolution of the org structure because of those capabilities.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So if we roll back the years, and I'll put this on you, Josh, because like if we look at our hairlines, I think you've been in many more GTM orgs than me, right? And have seen the structure play out again and again and again. Um,
There's nicer ways to say that, but yeah, it's probably true.
you said worse. And yeah, I think if we think about the GTM orgs of the past,
Mhm.
what did that look like compared to where we're going now?
Gosh, where do you want to start? You want to start in marketing?
Yeah.
Okay. So let's see. When we think about marketing and historically, like what we've had are content people. Content people, the content marketer was taking, probably 60 to 70% of their time just on first draft creation and going through a very thoughtful, very painstaking process to
Yeah.
create new content. Uh, that we're seeing overnight practically shift to where that person, it, the governance layer of AI is still critically important, right? Like
Mhm.
we don't want to suggest that you can create content, um, at light speed with Claude, just having access to, the internet and going nuts. Um, the ability to constrain Claude and to govern the information that goes into that content creation process is absolutely 100% critical. But if you build an environment like that, then yes, that content marketer is spending more time curating those that in that environment, that educational environment for Claude, than they are creating new content. New content's getting produced really fast, and assuming it's governed, it's on point, like it's really good. Is it 100% as good as what was created before? It might not be, but if you give me as an entrepreneur or business owner, if you give me the choice of sending out 4 campaigns in a week or spending 4 months creating 1 campaign, and those are, maybe extremes, but if you put that in front of me and the 4 campaigns in a week are 90% as good, I'm running
Mm.
because time matters, right? I don't have the time anymore to be waiting for that. And so,
Yeah.
yeah, go ahead.
You know what, Josh? I think most content written now via AI is better than if I was to brief a writer 5 years ago. Like,
Mm,
hands down. Because when we think about the change in the process of that, if I was to brief a writer 5 years ago, they might be brand new, like, to the business or to an agency that we've just hired. They have no context about our business, who we sell to, who we are, our convictions, anything like that. But now I can plug all of that into AI. If that's a Claude project, if we attach Blend Core onto that, whatever it may be, I can upload that knowledge and have that immediately give me a more accurate, better quality output than before. So yeah, I agree with the change in that role. I think what content people have and writers have is expertise about how to actually write something that gets engagement, like the cadence of wording, the rhythm that comes from creative writing. That isn't
yep,
pre-programmed into like Claude or ChatGPT. That's expertise that is built up over time. It's the expertise that is what's needed. It's not the actual output that you need
yeah.
that person creating.
Correct. Yeah, production ceases to be at the human layer, but the human's expertise and wisdom, and best practices needs to get woven in. You're right. And good news is there's ways to do that. Um,
Yeah, yeah.
so, but beyond that, like I think about like demand gen,
Mhm.
um, and the people who are in the marketing team creating campaigns, executing campaigns. Um, I think those roles become much um, fewer, um,
Yeah,
but
agreed.
but but broader. So they're building. not just individual campaigns anymore. They're building agents that know how to create and or execute on multiple campaigns 24/7 that, that are intelligent campaigns, super intelligent, right? Like really, lots of, if the user does this, do this, and so on, and getting signals from lots of different places to be able to make decisions. Um, that that marketing ops demand gen type
Mm,
resource needs to be someone who can think at a broader level and then work within the agent tools to be able to do that. Um, and so, like I said, I think you need fewer of them, but they become more senior, which is a theme that we'll talk about as we go through this. Um, and then I think there's a new role um, that goes along with what you were just saying. Let's call it a brand knowledge steward. Um, there's somebody in the business that is the focal point for knowing at a really detailed level what that business stands for, what their convictions are,
mm,
what their values are, what their competitive positioning is, um, what their products and services do, all of the detail that makes them them. That person's job is to uh, tirelessly curate their repository where they store that where they have where AI models have access to it. Um, and that function in a smaller business, it's a part-time role. In a larger business, I think it's a full-time role where they are continuously improving the quality of the AI output by improving the quality of the um, digital identity. And it's we've used the term digital twin before. I think that's the
yeah.
reality is there's this digital twin of the commercial side of the enterprise or the business that um, that person is responsible for putting together, and it's what candidly it's what we're doing for some of our clients now because these roles don't exist in many organizations, but in by 2028 we think yeah these will be commonplace. But we're serving that, and then we're putting all of that into Blend Core to serve as that repository that then allows their people to use Claude and other LLMs to be able to create um, content in mass and different types of assets, all within the guardrails of how that business uh, wants to portray itself. But
Yeah.
that I think the brand knowledge steward, something we could say guardian, whatever like brand guardian. I like that one. Could be is something is a function and maybe a full time role depending on the size of the business.
Yeah, and as when we think about brand in this instance, we're not talking about just a visual brand, right? Like brand guardian is a thing that is quite common in marketing. Like somebody in the function would own the brand and be the steward of like the brand guidelines, I suppose. But what we're talking about
Yeah.
here is like a holistic business repository of information, basically like a product
Right.
manager for your own company's identity, and they govern that, they compile it. And like I know for a fact people will be listening to this thinking like, "Oh, that's such BS, guys, like that's not going to happen." But you when you start using AI, as particularly like Claude projects, we've got hundreds now, and you really, really start to come up against issues with consistency. And even at a team level, even at a small team level, inconsistencies creeping in. And as more and more organizations catch up and just use AI more and more and more, they will like bump into this issue. It is absolutely
Right.
inevitable. That's why like we feel so strongly about this and this role existing, because I think to overcome the like just bombardment of AI and AI production happening, you have to have some sort of central governance around it. I think, yeah, this role will be important.
Well, I mean, let me put it a different way. Like, there's a real ROI to that role. If
Mm,
um, if my uh, Let's talk about proposals. Okay, so we all think, okay, great, I can record a call and I can generate a proposal like that, and it'll be ready for my AE to send out, and it'll be custom to the customer and the conversation. Great, super. Um, if I don't do a good job with AI governance, that proposal will either go out including things that aren't true, and we know that for sure because I've done it, um, or it will be caught by the AE, and then the AE will spend hours.
Mm,
The whole idea is that the AE doesn't have to spend hours anymore, right? They're not writing these proposals from scratch, or he's filling out a template or whatever. They're they're having 95% of the work done for them, and so they should be able to take that 95%, finish it up in 45 minutes, and send it out. The If that's not true, it breaks down the entire investment that we just made in that proposal creation capability with
yeah,
AI, right? Like it proves it to be false. So I can prove a real ROI to the investments we're making in AI, based on creating a governance layer that is effective at enforcing my digital identity, and making sure that that we're not inventing things.
yeah,
And I mean, the risk of the the risk of the AE not catching it and sending it out with something that is patently not what we do is scary, even,
yeah.
right? So, yeah. Should we talk about the sales org?
Yeah, well, I think this is where you've spent a lot of your career, right? And you've seen the roles within this evolve over time. I think the SDR role is something a lot of people are talking about right now, like the BDR, SDR,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it, um,
Yep.
because of the prospecting tools coming, the volume play becoming easier. This role is, yeah, really a one to discuss.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Again, it goes from effort based to system based, right? So instead, for the BDR, the future BDR, is somebody, and you're right. It could be SDR, it could be like that first person in the, who's
Mm,
responsible for top of funnel, um, getting top of funnel to, you know, handoff point, or even to mid funnel to
yeah,
handoff point. Um, they're no longer doing the first action. The agents are doing the first actions. We're bringing in intent data that allows the agents to perform more effectively, and so the outcomes of those are actual hand raisers, or actual engagement. Um, they meet a certain level of engagement that says, yeah, these are worth now talking to directly, and it's a warm talking to because that user's already been engaged with us in some manner, right? Whether it's a LinkedIn engagement, agent, or it's a which is an evolving space, or it's email, it's another channel, whatever that agent was doing, or however, or multiple channels that agent was using. uh, Once we get it to a certain point, and that's where that uh, you know architect uh, comes in to design. Okay, this is the point where we would want a human connection, like a really truly human
mhm,
connection. That BDR then is responsible for taking those and moving them forward, uh, and pushing, either disqualifying or push it. So they have to know more about the business, they have to know more about the products, they have to know more about the customer, than they ever did before. Um, so they're become more senior. Just in like it's your The people who will qualify for that role aren't the um, really hungry but fresh out, no experience people, because they're the convert like what you're measuring isn't activity anymore. You're measuring conversion. You're measuring output, pipeline created, and in some cases closed sale, right? Like, which is another topic we'll talk about in a second. Um, so I think for the SDRs and that org, at the very least, you have fewer. they're managing based on uh, warm engagement, and your agents are doing all of the
Mm.
truly front end work that you used to have them dialing for dollars.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, so like I can see two approaches here really where the BDR, like as we call them now, BDRs don't exist. I can see that. I can see that actually happening because I think the role changes so drastically potentially into running agents to do this stuff. Because when we think about like even HubSpot's prospecting agent, which I've been using recently and genuinely impressed with the output. It it is better than a brand new BDR who knows nothing about our business who joined like 5 years ago and didn't have access to all this context. And I think the role shifts so much towards like this agentic operator who can
Yeah,
run this stuff. And whether it's a human or whether it's a agent that gets that first touch and that handoff process, I don't think it matters. But I think the role that controls it changes.
yeah, yeah. And then how far they take it, right? So you said
Yeah.
it could go away. What you're really saying is, are the people who catch the stuff coming, the opportunities coming out of the agent, are they going to take it to goal or not? Are they going to finish the sale or not? Um, and I think that really depends on what you're selling.
Yeah.
Um, I think the if you're selling more transactional, shorter sales cycle, fewer people in the buying process, um, products, where there's lots of people who sell stuff just like that, then yeah, you probably have one role. You have a sales role, and they work directly with what comes out of the agent, and they work through it to close the business. Where you have large ticket, complex, um, maybe enterprise sales processes that take a long time and have multiple, um, uh, you know, committee members on the buying
Yeah.
process, and fairly technical in terms of complexity. That's where I think you still have a BDR who's operating still on volume to some extent, right? They're taking everything that comes out of the agentic work, and they still have to get it to a certain place, a qualified place, to hand it to the AE, or engage the AE. But I think there's still a like the men and women who have made their careers running enterprise sales processes. That is a complex and difficult process to manage, and the ones who do it really well, you don't want them spending their time on mid funnel stuff.
Mm.
You want them really focused uh, on the quarterbacking the very complex high ticket sale. But again, it just depends what you're selling.
Yeah.
If I don't if I can execute my sales playbook with a single resource, candidly, that's better for the customer, and it's probably better for my business.
Thinking about comp plans here,
Yeah.
because well, I don't you'd have seen different structures over the years, but BDRs typically would have been comped on some sort of volume output or
Yeah,
connection rate.
usually meetings
Yeah,
set, it's not usually just raw call volume. Like it's still a little bit of outcome based, but it's very much a numbers sort of game. Yeah, I think it's the comp for that type of role. Let's say there are still two roles. It's still the comp plans for those BDRs who are catching the agentic work and developing it. It's it becomes how much of what you handled closed.
yeah,
How much were you able to convert into pipeline? How much were you was able to be closed? Yeah, you're not actually doing the closing, but um, you're responsible for setting up the organization with deals that meet what the kinds of deals that we're going to have a high close rate for. And so that's really your job. And then you hand it off to the person who's going to actually close it. In the event that those two are compressed, right? Simpler sales cycle, what have you. Now you don't have anybody that you're paying to set meetings.
Mm,
You're paying the salesperson for on quota, right?
yeah.
And you've now completely eliminated that top line,
Yeah.
that handoff point.
Yeah. Yeah. Good point. I just wanted to interrupt this episode to tell you about another show that's in the HubSpot podcast network, Nudge, hosted by Phil Agnew. Nudge is the UK's #1 marketing podcast, breaking down the hidden psychology behind what we do and why we do it. There's no BS, no fluff, just smart, science-backed insights that actually work. Recent guests include Rory Sutherland, Robert Cialdini, and Dan Pink. Marketers will love this show. I know you will because I do. And it's because it discusses the psychology behind customer decisions and the secrets to successful marketing. And in one recent episode, I'll pick on Robert Cialdini's episode because it was really, really insightful. It spoke about 16 years ago, there was a chain of Chinese restaurants that wanted to increase sales without changing price. They didn't change the product, they didn't change the service, the chef, the food. Instead, they just changed 2 words on their menu and increased sales by 18%. They are the small nudges that you can make in marketing, in sales, to actually make a big difference to sales and to revenue. Listen to Nudge wherever you get your podcasts. Right now, every B2B marketing team is trying to figure out AEO, where they stand, whether it matters for them, and what they're supposed to actually do about it. The best place to start is knowing where you stand. We're offering a full AEO analysis of your brand's visibility across AI search engines, how often you're mentioned, what you're being cited for, and how your competitors are showing up. Then we'll walk you through the findings on a call with clear next steps. And we're doing all of this for free. You can request your analysis in the show notes below. Okay, so after, let's say there's a 2-layer motion, or even if there's a one, right? We're still going to have an account executive, sales executive in some form, whatever that takes. Where do you see the change in that role happening? Because that's not going to stay the same either, right?
No, I mean, brutally honest, as a sales leader, I need fewer of them, and I need them to handle more accounts, and their quotas go up. And I say that because I can now automate. I can record all their calls and all their touch points. I can do all of the analysis. I can catch um, deal risk way sooner. And so, and I'm automating a lot of the things that they used to have to do. They don't even need to update HubSpot anymore,
Yeah,
right? We can
that.
automate
Yeah,
almost all of that by, and so the administrative work of being that AE goes away almost completely. And the creation work of that AE gets largely AI enabled. And so they should be able to handle more deals, work with more customers. And they're like, instead of, I think maybe historically pre AI, if a rep spent 50% of their week talking to customers, that would have been awesome. That
mm,
would have been a great, a great achievement. Now, 70% of their time should be freed to be able to do that. And you know, that's what they're good at. That's what they should be best at, is
yeah,
being able to build relationships. I still think people buy from people, right? And people buy from people they like and they want to work with and they want to have confidence in. And so it frees them up to be more relational, and to, which is kind of counterintuitive to this whole AI thing, right? Where we're saying, oh, well, the buyer doesn't want to talk to us until much longer on and so on. But in the end, there's still a human to human buying process. And I don't think that goes away in 2028. I don't think uh, it's scary to even think about what, 2030 and beyond. But the the idea that um, people aren't going to be in the decision making process for what companies buy in B2B seems too futuristic and frankly too risky.
yeah.
Um,
I even think like authenticity actually will just become more important in the entire
yeah,
go to market. even though it seems counterintuitive, like you say, because all we're talking about here is using AI to like automate all this stuff. But I think in doing that, you're automating the boring things that nobody ever wanted to do anyway, which frees up like in marketing and in how we actually engage with buyers and distribute content. A lot of that frees up time to create authentic content that people truly connect with. And that I think that
Right.
goes all the way from discovery of your brand all the way through to close. I,
Mhm.
yeah, I truly believe that authenticity is never been more important and will never be more important in 5 years to come.
I think it even changes the role of the head of sales. Like,
Yeah,
historically, the head of sales would have spent a lot of time inspecting, doing pipeline calls, reviewing deals and so on. Because of the automations we can create and um, the yeah, I mean, the automations, the uh, AI analysis we can do in real time, really, that role stops being inspection and starts being intervention. That they can very like, you put the VP of sales, let's say, on their front foot 100% of the time. They are active. The AI is telling them you have deal risk here, you've got opportunities here, you've got things, that an executive relationship that you should be inserting yourself into here. These are your three most important deals for these reasons. You've got to go get those done. And, right, like all of the my day as a head of sales shifts from, "Oh, I wonder what Bobby's doing right now," to, "Oh, I've got this call, I've got this person to engage, I've got the," and it's all, I'm helping move deals forward, or avoiding deals cratering, you know.
yeah,
Uh, and yeah, I think that role changes as well, and that favors the entrepreneurial mindset.
mm,
And you'll see some VPs of sales who have historically been more pure play managers. I think they'll tend to go away. I think they'll struggle, because they won't have, if you don't have a bias for action in that role, I think you won't be able to keep up with the pace that the business expects you to go.
yeah, yeah. I think everyone should start playing around with connecting like their CRM to something like Claude and using Claude Cowork to trigger actions every morning to run a certain report. Like I've got a couple of Claude Cowork projects that run every morning and basically dictate my day. And it can truly change roles, and I think the head of sales one is one, but throughout the entire org, right? How
Yeah.
you then gather data and find information changes because you can have it sent right to you, which is awesome. But I think there's a layer in like architecting the system
Mhm.
as well, and
Yeah.
that's a role in itself, I think.
Totally. I think growth architect is going to be a role that, um, emerges, that has purview across marketing, sales, customer success, like the entire revenue life cycle. Um, uh, and they are really business strategists who understand the how the tech works, and can orchestrate, or can, design orchestrations. They may have people who are hands on keyboard creating the orchestrations behind them, but
Mm,
they're the ones who are, like, I think, on a whiteboard saying, "This is how our revenue life cycle is going to work from now on," and finding the ways to make it go faster and faster and
yeah.
faster, and removing friction from each, not just each silo, but each, seam,
Mm,
the handoff points between the historical silos, which we can talk about too. So, but I think that role, growth architect, will become something that, you'll start to see soon, like really soon, as people start to really appreciate what should be being done, particularly if you're in like a PE owned business, and you've got you've only got so much go to market resource, and you've got to be as efficient as you can and predictable as you can. Um, I think that that role, maybe more than any other, is going to be one that is becomes of strategic value for the business.
Here's a question for you.
Uh-oh.
Because growth architect isn't a role right now, nobody has it on their CV. Nobody is a growth architect really. So who are the growth architects now?
That's a really hard question. Thank you.
Or what the
We didn't
traits, it might not be a
we didn't
role.
prep for it, by the way. Um, so here's some thoughts. Um, you have in different size businesses, some businesses you have sales and like smaller businesses, maybe you don't have anybody who's specifically thinking um, like um, an enterprise architect. So bigger companies have people called enterprise architects. That's the exact same or very similar role, but they look across the entire enterprise, and they're huge, um, huge purview and
Mhm.
complexity. Um, this is very so. This becomes more a flavor of that is very deep in go to market, where an enterprise architect probably doesn't know the most about
Yeah.
how to um, how to get the best response rates in an agentic outreach process. Uh, the the growth architect would, um, but it's that same sort of skill set. It might come out of sales engineers. Um, that's a function that's been in businesses for a long, long time, and they
Mm.
tend to be people who are subject matter deep, and commercially oriented. So it could come out of that, it wouldn't just be a flip the switch. Like there's a lot of education training. I think there will be some CROs that are more system and process CROs that are like, oh, that's not actually a interesting job at a maybe a bigger company.
Mm.
So if maybe I did the CRO job, like I
Yeah.
think it's a really like enterprise or not enterprise executive type role, but not again not manager executive, more strategic
Yeah.
executive. And then I think there will be a lot of consultants who have been in you know the the KPMGs and other like consultancies that have looked at how to build um, your enterprise architecture, and you'll see them start to create these roles that they service people with. You'll see companies like us say we can do this for you, but I think I think consultants will be a big part because it's a
Mm.
very much a
Yeah.
consultative function. That would be my guess.
Yeah.
Off
No, that's good.
off the cuff, since you didn't prep me for that question.
I like to just slide them in occasionally. That was good. No, I agree. I think it's
So
interesting.
so there's one group we haven't talked about yet, customer success.
Yeah.
Um, I think it's important that you know, we always talk about marketing and sales. We have to always talk about customer
Mm.
success too, because in most B2B businesses, the majority of the short-term growth opportunity sits in the existing
Yeah.
base, right? And so if we don't talk about customer success, we're missing out on a big portion of where our opportunity lies. Um, so if you think about a CSM who's in a business historically, um, oftentimes they're in roles where they're firefighting, they're
Mm.
reactive, they're getting pinged from lots of sides, and they're the people that have to go into the business and figure out how to solve the customer's problems. Um, they're they're supposed to be driving growth, but building uh, monthly business reviews or quarterly business reviews takes 6 to 8 or hours, or maybe a couple of days to prepare for.
Yeah.
Um, uh, eh, so as a result, because of all of that, they can only manage 20 to 40 accounts typically. Uh, Much more than that, and it becomes like your surface level. I mean, there's exceptions, but if you're delivering a fairly complex solution or you're serving an enterprise, I think, yeah, 20 to 40 is probably about right for those organizations or for those people. Now, after this shift, I think those people go to uh, easily 50 to 100 accounts a piece. The QBR prep drops to under an hour. Um, the the reactive is replaced with the proactive, where our systems are identifying where there's risk and proactively pushing that individual into, here's how I go and solve for this, right? Um, and and in doing so, we create better customer relationships, happier customers, but we're also spending more of our time on our front foot with those CSMs who are being where with systems that are helping them recognize where there's opportunity. One of the fundamental problems tendencies with CSM organizations is they're either staffed with people who are fully sales mode and they
Mm,
really don't care
yeah,
anything about customer success, um, and that generally doesn't help you build long-term happy customers. It makes people feel like you're just constantly selling to them. Or they're staffed with people who are very customer
yeah, the flip side.
relationship, customer satisfaction focused. And as a result, they tend to be people pleasers. They tend to not hear when the customer says something that might be a little bit critical, they stop, they don't think, oh, that's an opportunity. That's an opportunity for me to grow that account. Um, And so being able to leverage AI tooling in and help those people do a better job on either side of that, um, I think will make them go faster, but also improve customer relationships. And if you improve the customer relationship, then those more of those customers will grow faster. And so I think you have fewer, but they do more, and they ultimately lead to faster growth if
Yeah.
you build it right.
Yeah. Since working with you, I've thought much more about customer success and in particular the relationship between marketing and customer success. And I think there's a missing piece that often gets left out, which is RevOps in like the structural organization of these things. Because when we think about RevOps, we often think about, well, it's probably sales first, truthfully. And then you might have like marketing ops that gets rolled up into RevOps. But like you most of your revenue is probably from your existing customer base anyway. So why is RevOps not in that conversation? And like, I think it now will be with a more centralized function. Like we spoke about, um, Agent Operations Lead like earlier in the conversation,
Mhm.
and that's the opportunity I think to roll this all together and
Yeah.
truly start thinking about RevOps as this centralized function that can impact customer success just as well as it impacts sales and tie absolutely everything together in the growth cycle.
Yep, I think those people, like, in this new org structure, I think those people, you kinda like, you it's like RevOps met DevOps and they had a baby. And 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 they're very, um, technically savvy, but they understand how that they're there to build connective tissue, so that there aren't siloed handoffs, but it is a continuous, always visible, always thinking system that is, regardless of where the customer is and at what stage, from prospect to you know the, our longest standing tenured client, uh, and if we do that well, those people, I think, report to the growth architect.
Mm,
So so if you think about the CRO or the CEO, depending on the size of the organization, growth architect is designing how this all works. They then have the, what do we call them? Agentic. or Agent
Agent
Operations Lead.
Operations Lead. Yeah.
Yeah. Those roles will then sit under that growth architect implementing the systems,
Yeah.
and then you probably have some level of training and enablement function that at larger organizations that is necessary too, that go and work through every part of marketing, sales, customer success to make sure that they're getting the most out of the systems that are being built.
Yeah.
In smaller orgs, that's just getting everybody together and and saying, "This is how we're gonna do it now." Uh, and, you know, but
Go from there.
yeah, I think so.
Okay. So when we think like we've gone through roles there and different organizations within the business, but what's the actual business value of all of this stuff? Because, people listening to this might be thinking that's actually scary and, my job might be at risk. But if you're able to pivot and move into, this new go to market space that we're predicting in 2028, like what's the actual business opportunity there of restructuring in this way?
Well, I think very simply, building the new go-to-market well is will be for the next 4 or 5 years, will be a competitive differentiator. The faster that you go, the more effective you do it, the better you will outperform your competition in most B2B spaces. Um, and so, and then in 4 or 5 years, the companies that didn't do it died, to be very honest. Uh, and the companies and so everybody gets to be back at a level playing field, and then we wait for the next giant
Right. Yeah.
thing, right? Um, but yes, jobs are going to change. The people that I worry the most for, if I'm really honest, as a dad, I worry about the people coming out of school now
Yeah.
or coming out of school in the next 3 years. Um, I tell my son all the time, if he's not on his own really investing his own time into how AI works and in how to use AI and enable AI in different capacities. Like I don't care who you hire. We're gonna hire a copywriter, but that copywriter needs to know how to get the most out of their expertise, but getting the most out of an AI based
Yeah.
production process. And if you're so I think that mind shift is definitely starting, but the people who are just coming out of school and don't have the benefit of 10 years of experience doing something and have a depth of expertise, what is it? How do they catch up? How do
Mm.
they get to? And I don't have a great answer for that, other than like companies like ours. Um, I see us being somebody who can bring in, um, like well, okay, so, pick on Joe. Uh, so Joe, my son, works for us. He's in college, uh, and he's been over the last 3 years working for another agency and now for us. He's been building his skill set, um, but as a part-time college kid intern type role. Um, when he gets to graduation next year, he'll be way ahead of like from a practical standpoint of the kids, whether he comes to work for us when he graduates or whether he goes and does something else. I think that model of hiring kids in school, I say kids, I know I'm an old man, I shouldn't say kids, um, young professionals um, who are still in school. I think that's internship programs and co-ops, I think, become really, really important. Um, and if I were a dad sending a kid to school who wanted to go into the business world, I would not let them go to a school that didn't have a program like
Yeah.
that and really focus on it, right? So I think that'll be a part of it. Um, uh, this was not what we planned for either, Dan. But
No, but I
I
think you're so
but I
right.
care about, like, I care
Yeah.
as a just as a human being, I care about people and
Education as well, like, shifts with all this stuff, right? So,
yeah,
like, as business requirements change and the personnel inside those businesses change, what is taught at an education level shifts with that. It takes time for that to catch up. So, it's really, really important to be able to, like, be hungry and, like, go and learn this stuff and just, yeah, figure it out,
yeah.
try it out, make mistakes, get frustrated, and but just have a foundational understanding of like how it all works for sure.
Yep. Yep. No, I agree. Yeah. Otherwise, I think actually it creates greater opportunity for career growth and frankly earnings growth, because, like, in the end, an organization that does this well should have fewer people delivering more revenue faster, right? Sales cycles should compress, um, and probably you're getting, like, from an NRR standpoint, you're probably getting 5 to 15 points of improvement,
Mm,
just in the revenue you're getting from your existing base. Um, and that drives greater profitability. Greater profitability should mean that we can invest more in our people, and everybody wins. Um,
yeah. Do you know?
that's how I envision it anyway.
I think job satisfaction also increases as
Mm.
all of the things we don't like to do we can offload to an agent. Like I have way more fun now, like because I can do more things that I actually want to do. I don't have
Yeah.
to do as much admin, as much like I don't particularly like writing at all. I don't really have to do that anymore.
So
Um,
so I think that's for entrepreneurial team members like yourself. I think that's true. For people who have gotten um, very comfortable. Like, there's just people are wired
mm,
differently, right? So
yeah,
if I've built my career and my what I like to do on doing this thing, I do feel for those people, because though, like, that mindset, you're probably wired with that mindset. It's not a, oh, I'm just going to go be more entrepreneurial like that.
yeah. I think you're right.
There's
Yeah,
and so, like, the struggle's real for those folks, and I think we do need to help them with training, with, patient enabling, time, um, as long as they have the right attitude that says, "Yeah, this world is gonna change on me, or has changed on me. I need to change my box."
yeah,
Um, then we need to recognize that, okay, that there's gonna be some reskilling and things that need to be done, and that's incumbent upon us as responsible employers too. But I for yes, for guys like you, candidly, for guys like me, like, this is kid in a candy store. Like, it's so
yeah.
much fun.
It is for sure. All right. Well, that was a bit of a detour for this episode, but an enjoyable one.
Yeah,
Do you
wouldn't be the first
wanna
time.
do you wanna leave any like final thoughts, wrap us up in terms of what we've covered today?
Yeah, I mean, I think very simply, the future of go to market is here. Um, Roles are changing. The organization of the future is, um, moving into fewer people, more senior people, with some different roles that haven't existed before. But the growth architect, the Agentic uh, Operations Lead. I struggle with that one. We're going to have to come up with a new name for that. Um, those are roles that really are going to be necessary and going to have have a very high level of visibility in the organization. Um, the importance of having a system of record that really does show for the entire growth life cycle, the entire revenue life cycle, every touch point, and maintains a history, so that whether you're in marketing and you're looking at an account, or you're in sales and looking at an account, or you're in customer success, you see that entire, right? I think of the customer success person that is told, well, sales told me, well, we can solve that now, right? Like
Mhm.
if we capture everything sales told them, which we should be able to do, uh, then we can go back and we can identify in what was previously unstructured data. Now we can identify, oh yeah, we actually did make that commitment, or
Mhm.
no, we this isn't what we said. That's, and we can solve for those sorts of things, and try to iron out those confusion points. Anyway, you said quick things, and sorry, passion gets in my way. Uh, where was I? Uh, okay. So the last thing then, because I know you're looking at me like, wrap this up. We
I'm good to go still, but like, we
the
should wrap it
the
up.
the critical thing to all of this, yes, have a system of record, but if you're going to implement AI in your go-to-market, it has to be governed. It has to be governed. I don't care if you buy Blend Core. I mean, I do personally, but if you don't have a governed environment and a role that, um, whether it's an outsourced role or an insourced role, a role that is on the on the you know in the tower, protecting and making sure that your digital twin, your digital identity stays you, all of this falls apart. All of it does, because you inject risk, and as soon as I inject risk, I slow everything down. I can't
Mhm.
do what I wanted to do. And so the key to unlocking ROI in AI enabled go to market is making sure that you have governed AI. And so I'll leave you with that.
Amazing. Perfect. Nice one, Josh. Let's wrap it up there. Yeah, fun episode. Hopefully you enjoyed this one as much as we did. And yeah, we will catch you next time. Thanks for listening to the episode today. Before you head off, if AEO has been on your mind and you're not sure where to start, here's something worth doing right now. We're offering a full AI visibility analysis completely free. We'll look at how your brand is showing up across the major AI engines, what's influencing those results, how competitors compare, and what you should do about it. Then we'll walk you through all the findings on a call. Actual findings too, specific to your business with real next steps. Not a template, not a PDF, a proper analysis. You can request yours by clicking the link in the description below.